into the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV's Spotlight On series. I like to call it a series. Tonight, we have a very special guest. I'm a huge fan of comedy, and if you are, you will enjoy this. So if you're tuning into YouTube, SoundCloud, stay put. We're going to talk about some stories from the good old days. We're going to talk about some news stories. I'm here with stand-up comic, award-winning writer, Paul Mecurio.
Dad, thanks for having me, man.
Heck yeah.
Nice to see you. Jesus, I got to tell you, I think I want to sleep with you. You're a very handsome man with the muscles. Did you have to wear the super tight T-shirt just to turn me on?
You know, it's a large, so like that's my excuse.
Well, they don't make anything bigger than a large.
Yeah, there's nothing. XL just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
No, you're a good-looking man. And,
I appreciate it.
I don't know if you're busy for dinner later, but I'm just saying.
I'm not. We can go somewhere here. We got to get out of the valley, though. We got to
Tom's
go.
Hamburgers across the street.
Yeah, let's go to Tom's. Let's enjoy it. Let's split a milkshake or a malt.
Yeah, let's get and then get trichinosis and both end up in the hospital. They look like they haven't swabbed that place down in years.
Did you just go in there?
No, I just looked at it because I was hungry and I'm like,
Sometimes the best spot, though.
Is it really?
I mean, sometimes that's the best spot, like a little dingy.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, you're from what? The Northeast, from Rhode Island?
I'm from Rhode Island originally. I live in New York. So yeah, we've got these things called hot wieners in New York, which is we call them gaggers, and they're like these little hot dogs, and they steam the bun, and you put mustard, onions, and this special meat sauce, which a man makes in the back, with his man juice, and it's you get hammered, and then you go there at 2 in the morning, and it's the best thing that ever happened to you. Well,
that New York always reminds me of. I always hear when did you move to New York? How long have you been in New York?
I don't know, 14, 15 years. Yeah.
So was it?
I mean, I was in law school, and I went from law school to working on Wall Street, and then and we can talk about this.
I definitely want to dive in.
And then I left to be a comedian. So I was 3 years in D.C., removed from Rhode Island, and then New York after that.
How was New York? And before we dive into everything, I always hear about. It's more, 20, 30 years ago, but was it a little, even 15 years ago, was it a little more gritty? Was there still some of that dirt?
Yeah, it was like Times Square actually had like porn theaters.
Yeah, it wasn't like a tourist spot.
Yeah, now it's like you can't go. Now I have to go into the Disney store and take care of myself.
Of course.
And you don't want that.
Well, I mean, always.
In the doll section.
When was that not the place to take care of it?
There's a little Barbie, and one thing leads to another, and boom, magic happens. And then I get arrested, and I'm the bad guy. Well, if you didn't replace the porn theater with Disney, I would be doing this in the porn theater right now, and no one would be arresting me. It was about that time when Rudy Giuliani came in. He kind of cleaned up the city. It was so weird you're asking me this because literally about 4 hours ago I was talking to somebody about it. You'd come into Manhattan at night. My wife and I are both from Rhode Island. We go up to see the family. You drive back in. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. The minute you stop at that first red light when you enter Manhattan, homeless guys come up to your window trying to wash your window. And it's scary and intimidating. And so Giuliani kind of just made the quality of life better and then cleaned it up. It's still kind of dirty, and in the summer...
Do you ever miss the dirt, though? Like some
urine.
of that dirt? Do you ever miss,
when I'm away?
I'll hear some comics, and people say, man, like even in the 90s, it was, I'm glad they cleaned it up, but I kind of miss some of that dirt in the theaters and like the prostitutes or whatnot.
That's why like every other week I go out and I slip into the night and I take a life. Like just so that I feel
stay level.
Yeah, exactly. It just kind of grounds me, usually in the park, and then I bury the person because it's 860 acres, so no one's gonna find the kid, the guy.
No one's ever found a murderer in New York.
Yeah, exactly. I've lost track how many I've done, but no, you do kind of like. There's a big tourist thing now. Yeah. Like, and even with the comedy, a lot of the comedy clubs, even some of the bigger ones, are going to Times Square, and they're not giving tickets away, but they're getting people to come. So half your audience is from Australia or New Zealand or just faraway places, Queens.
Yeah.
No, and,
Queens.
and the problem though is they don't get references. They don't get American references, right?
Yeah.
And then they're not following American politics. So if you're starting to make jokes about that stuff, they're sitting there and they're looking at you like, please, can you make jokes about lipstick and apples? We all know what those are.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be really general.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cleaned up in a way. There's not that sort of New York crowd anymore, which was kind of like make me like always fun and a little challenging in a fun way. Like make me laugh there, funny boy. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, and a sense of accomplishment.
And at the end of the night, you take a bullet in the hip.
Of course.
But it's worth it.
Yeah.
That's what you do. I'm a comedian.
Yeah. Well, you have a huge audience.
And you're from Ohio.
I am from Ohio.
So there, everybody's pure. There are a lot of people cheat in Ohio. Women, there's a lot of women cheat.
Do you have experience? Okay, I'll leave it at
This
that.
happened in a bathroom or two in a certain mall.
Oh. Which mall? Maybe I spent some time there. I don't know.
Where the Columbus Funny Bone is.
Oh, okay. That's a good club.
There's a lot. Are there a lot of unhappy marriages in the Midwest where they just sort of put on?
You know what? I think there are, because everyone goes back to the Midwest to get married.
Yeah.
And everyone stays. We're in LA right now, and everyone stays out here. That's what happened. All my friends that left got married. All the ones that stayed single.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how it works. But
Right.
then, they're miserable. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's not
They're
that miserable. There's definitely a thing, and you start talking to a woman, and I Bill Cosby her drink, and then one thing leads to another, and that's not a bad thing because he did it, and it was fine.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they're just and they're real nice because I work in Columbus,
Yeah.
I work in Toledo, I just worked in Dayton.
Oh, Toledo. I went to school right near Toledo.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Bowling
nice
Green.
over there.
Yeah.
There's like the funny bones. So
Yeah.
So I know your world.
Yeah.
I am like an adopted son. And they
Welcome.
like me because I'm like it's like I'm the circus that comes to town because I'm like the emotional Italian guy from the East Coast that gets mad at stuff and goes crazy, and they're all more like sedated, and then they just go home and punch a puppy.
Do you like the Midwest crowd? like,
I
do you like a lot of, like?
I don't like if it's all white. Like I've been to Des Moines, and I like the.
Well,
club.
whoa. No, it's good. Okay.
I like a mixed crowd because I talk about race. Also, frankly, white people from the Midwest, you don't emote. You really don't. You're a little like you're a Protestant, right?
What are you saying?
Are you a Protestant?
I don't practice any
Christian.
specific religion.
You're a Christian.
I'm just
you're
a
like my
guy.
wife.
I'm a guy.
No, but you're okay. So you're like what I call a WASP, which is a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Sure.
Okay, that's what
I'll
my
take
wife
it.
is.
I'll take it.
No, I don't mean as an insult.
Oh, no.
You're
I'll
blonde,
just take it.
You're blue hair. You've got your muscles popping out of your
Sure.
t-shirt. You're like
All for
Sven.
Jesus. Yeah.
And so they're like a little reserved initially, whereas like in New York or like more ethnic areas, they're just like wow. They're just letting go. You know what I mean? They're great. But like their level of laugh is different, but you still in their minds killed, but it's a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's not bad, and I love going there. People are actually really super nice. Columbus is cool. It's like Providence, Rhode Island. It reminds me of where I grew up.
I've never been to Providence.
It's exactly like Columbus in all seriousness.
Oh, really?
It's a mix of blue collar, white collar. It's a medium-sized town.
Well, then you got all that
It's
Ivy League stuff going on there too.
Yeah, but you've got Ohio State, which is sort of like well, it's not anything like an Ivy League, but you've got Ohio State.
It's getting better.
That's got to be great to have Ohio State in your. Come on.
That's my team, man. That's all you're a sports fan, right?
Yeah, but
So-
we don't have that. See, that's
You
what
don't. You don't have that college thing. But
we've got
who are the
Boston
teams in Rhode
Col-
Island? You just kind of latch on to anything in the Northeast.
Well, there's
Anything New York?
There's a technical school volleyball team that everybody follows.
They're pretty good, huh?
Apex Tech
Is it
Volleyball.
just for the spandex?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We had 9 fans come out last year.
Oh, good.
Not all at
Record
the same
crowd.
game. There were
No,
1
total.
and then 2 and then 4. No, the Boston College in the Northeast is the closest thing.
They used to be. That was something, back in the day.
But Penn State is the one that's sort of up on that level with you guys. But I went to a couple of years ago. Somebody took me to Columbus to Ohio State.
Oh, you
game,
went?
And it was literally like
It's
there's
insane.
100,000. It's insane.
Yeah.
And then they go, "Please rise and remove your hat." And I think it's the national anthem. It's the school song first.
Oh yeah.
Then the national.
Yeah. Did you see Script Ohio? They did the band does.
And the honor
beautiful
guard
thing.
comes out and
Yeah.
they do the flag and.
Yeah.
They got
the Jets going, yeah.
coming over, and somebody shot a dove with with a
every
bow and arrow
every day.
But you have
It
hunters
was just
there.
random.
Just random.
Yeah, it wasn't even had nothing to do with the game.
No, it's a great city actually. It
Oh,
really
well,
is.
thanks.
I'm never one of these guys like because I don't consider myself a big city in New York. I am from
Yeah.
Providence, Rhode Island, and that's how I consider myself.
Yeah.
I got my crazy Italian family, like my cousin Bobby who's in the mob there.
Yeah. You got a little history. Can
Yeah.
you even talk
Oh,
about it?
yeah.
Because a lot of times, it's like how detached.
No. Part of my story has been like, I was trying to figure out what to do with my life once I was on Wall Street, and we could talk about that later. But
Yeah.
when I was trying to figure things out, in the middle of that, I was at this crossroads. Should I be a comedian or stay on Wall Street? My father dies of a heart attack unexpectedly, so I go home to Rhode Island for the funeral, and we come from an Italian family. Now, we're not like the crazy Italian family with like the plastic on the furniture, like that stereotype, super neat house. In fact, because the focus of our lives has been this store, this business, this furniture store that my mother started, and so everything else was just put was secondary, right? So our house was a pigsty growing up. This actually happened. Someone broke into our house and they took the stereo. They didn't touch another thing in the house. They were in and they were out. And a cop comes over to take a police report, and he stands in the middle of the living room and he goes, "Oh my God, this guy made a mess of this place, huh?"
Did you blame it on him?
Yeah. I go, "Yeah, he ransacked the place. Look, he threw a bra on the lampshade. It was crazy, right?" But there is some stereotypes that apply, like the mafia part. My cousin Bobby, he runs numbers.
Always
he's
Bobby.
a bookie, yeah, and he dressed like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. He still to this day, and he's a really handsome guy.
Is he going to gyms like John at night nowadays?
Exactly.
Is he doing the same thing?
And he wears
progressing.
He wears really super. I don't know if I can stand up.
4 in the morning. Now stand up all you want.
Super tight pants, and he stands on the street corner, and he's always like, "Hey, how you doing?" He's one of those guys in front of the social club, smoking, and he's got super tight like pants on, like, and he's always moving his legs. He's got a live snake in his pants, right? And he runs numbers. The front is a woman's shoe store. He knows nothing about women's shoes. Like, what do you need, a size 7 pump? I don't know. Just it looks good on you. Like, he doesn't care.
Pump.
So he comes, and when he sells stuff out of the trunk of his car.
Yeah.
He sells stuff,
Stuff,
like
things.
Suits, watches, ratchet. He was at one time selling car alarms that he stole out of other people's cars.
Lovely.
And then when you say to him, "Bobby, do you understand the fact you're able to steal this alarm means it's not a very good alarm?" He goes, "What are you talking about? It just doesn't have the box. Here, take it. It's $25. You just hook it up." This is how he came dressed to my father's funeral. A fluorescent orange silk. There's an open casket funeral.
Yeah.
A fluorescent orange silk shirt, unbuttoned gold chains, white patent leather belt, white slacks, like a creamsicle with chest hair. That's all he
He
wearing.
was the focal point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then he had white mesh loafers on. It was the summer. He didn't have any socks on. And he overdoes everything, cologne and everything. Jewelry and powder. He put powder on his feet to keep him dry in the summer, but he put too much powder. So every time he was stepping toward the casket, puffs of white smoke are coming out of the tops of his shoes.
It's ridiculous.
And we're like, somebody just nominated a pope. This is great. Like, and then he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Paulie. And he goes, "Hey, Uncle Otto, he was a good man. Here's a little something for the funeral." And he palms me $50, like I'm a maitre d' at the restaurant, to pay for my father's funeral.
Yeah.
Then he turns then after he does that, then he turns like Elvis to like everybody sitting down. He's just like looking like he's gonna try to get something, have sex with somebody, right? He's like doing that. And then you fast forward to the end of the night, and everybody left the funeral parking lot. Just the family cars, and my cousin Bobby's car is in the back, of Ford Torino, and you see him with the light from the trunk up, and he's holding a suit up, and he's selling a guy a suit at the funeral of my father.
This is really going on.
Oh yeah, this all happened.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. This is a piece of work.
Do you
What
have
kind of floral arrangement did he send?
He sent it looked like a giant pizza, and and then somebody actually tried to eat it, and he had a pinky ring too. He was a big pinky ring guy, and it just he was doing like $100,000 a week, running numbers, and he was driving a Mercedes and all this other stuff, and then
not obvious at all.
No, and then the FBI they put the thing, they wiretapped him, and he couldn't understand how he got caught. He's going to be the next president.
He's still, he's running. I heard
Who's that
he's
guy
leading.
that just talked to me? That was kind of creepy.
It's God.
Hey, God.
Yeah.
Where are you? Are you wearing pants?
We call him God. We think he's wearing pants. We're not sure.
Where are you?
But
Who
God's,
is it?
I wear a toga.
There you go. Yeah, he wears a toga, of course.
You sound smart, like you were good at math at one time.
At one time.
Definitely not.
No, he's not. I wanted to dive in a little bit. Well, you talked about. I didn't know your dad passed away when you were young.
No, that was like, I don't know, 24, 26, 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
You started off. We'll just go back to it. I mean, you went to law school.
Yeah.
And you had that 6-figure gig
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Wall
yeah.
Street and everything.
Yeah.
But I wanted to know because you obviously had an interest in comedy even then, correct? When you were in school.
Yeah.
Growing up, did you have like anyone in your family that was like an influence for comedy, or someone that kind of opened the door to you? Like, oh, hey, check this out. Check out, this comedian. Check out Carlin or Pryor. Or...
It wasn't anybody in my family. My mother is a very flamboyant woman and was always the center of attention. And especially when she would sell in her store, that was her theater. People would come in and she'd go, hey, you're a handsome guy. I bet I know what you do. You're like a model or something. Like she starts playing with you.
Yeah.
And then she's very endearing. And I think that, and I was selling furniture when I was 12 to older ladies. So I think if you're a comic, there is this gift of gab, even though some comics can be socially awkward off stage, but on stage something happens.
Yeah.
So I think that was a big influence. But for some reason, I really gravitated to watching. I would always ask, even when I was little, to stay up if there was a comedian on late night TV,
like on Carson or something.
Yeah, or Letterman or whatever. It didn't matter who it was. And then I'd go in, not planning it, and I'd remember the jokes, and then do Rodney Dangerfield jokes, and I would kill. I was getting laughs in the locker room, and I remember oh, this is cool. But I never had the thought that I was going to be a performer.
Yeah. I
just was kind of a cut up, and I was funny with my friends. But a lot of people are funny with their friends. I did get voted class clown because I was, I do stuff we busted out there's 2 lockers. So we busted out the floor of one of the lockers. So it was and then they would put me in, and I'd take my pants down and just have my underwear, and then my friends would open the locker, and I'd jump out and scare the girls. I was that guy.
Of course.
A little bit. I was an idiot. But that was it. And then I had not had any plans because my father put floors in for a living. My parents are high school educated. Nobody in my family or immediate family or even distant relatives. That world was foreign to. We were in Rhode Island, an Italian neighborhood in Rhode Island, right? So I just was I don't know, I'm going to go to college. And then I started thinking maybe I want to be a lawyer because that's kind of what especially Italian parents aspire their kid to be a lawyer, a doctor, or a dentist, right?
Yeah, bail out your...
yeah, exactly. My cousin Bob.
Your cousin, yeah.
Hey, why couldn't you be a criminal lawyer? You mook, what is wrong with you? And so I ended up going to law school.
You're a smart guy. Well, you're a smart guy. I mean, Georgetown, that's a good school. I mean, come on.
I had pictures.
Law school.
I had pictures of people.
Okay, yeah.
I went to Georgetown, and I went to Providence College undergrad. Good basketball and hockey program. Not great with the football, but good with the thing. And they have some white guys on the basketball
That's
team.
true. There's
big
a
fan
few.
Of the white guys.
There's a few.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm going to say straight up, I'm a big fan of the white guys who play basketball. Larry Bird, big Boston Celtics fan, taught me if you play hard, you're dedicated, and there's a shortage of black guys.
You talked to him?
And
he said that allegedly?
Man, I'd love to have him on my podcast.
Oh, man. Well, you've had, we'll bounce around, but you've had on your podcast, which just ended, which was called, and then now you're launching, the Paul Mecurio show.
Yep.
And now you've got 2 chairs and a microphone.
Yeah.
It's on the Corolla Digital Network, right?
Yeah.
But with your podcast before, you had Paul McCartney. I'm a big wrestling guy, so you had Stone Cold Steve Austin and
Mick Foley.
Mick Foley. Who were some of the big guests that you had, and who were the most interesting people that you got to talk to?
You mentioned Paul McCartney, which was sort of a big get.
He's
I'm a
all right.
Beatle, whatever.
Old news.
Jay Leno, who I know, and we'll talk about it because that was he was my entree into comedy. Bob Costas, Sugar Ray Leonard, Neil deGrasse Tyson, astrophysicist. I can't believe I have an astrophysicist on my show.
He's great.
Yeah, and I wanted to do a show that was not there's nothing wrong with these, but there's a lot of podcasts in comedy, 2 comedians hanging out, just shooting it, right?
Yeah.
And blah blah blah. I kind of like long form interviews. I really love talk. We were talking off camera. I'm a big fan of talk. That's all I listen to in the cars. Mostly sports talk, but regular news talk. So I get tired of watching late night TV and it's an actor and they just have to sell that movie, so they have 7 minutes, and there's so much more that person could talk about. I'm sure that they're interesting people. And there's Charlie Rose and there's Tavis Smiley. So I was I want to do something where I want to watch. I want to do a podcast that I want to listen to, but I want a variety of guests. So from an astrophysicist to a professional wrestler, Stone Cold Steve Austin was one of the most interesting, and of course Paul McCartney. But they all were for their own reasons. Stephen Colbert revealed that he was a real, am I allowed to swear on this thing?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay, he was a real fuck up. In high school, he was lost. His father and his two brothers died in a plane crash. He goes in, and that's
This is Stone Cold you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about Stephen Colbert.
Stephen. Okay, Stephen.
Now that's the guy. Like you look at him and you think
Yeah.
that guy was like a brainiac, right? But he
Yeah.
had issues. Like so, every one of them, there's something that gets revealed. Stone Cold, which was really cool, was there's a direct parallel to the way professional wrestlers develop their persona and comedians do. He did it was. I ended up doing a 2-part interview with him. First of all, I did it here in L.A. And when he came to my hotel room, and as he was coming up, I had this thought: what if he goes into a roid rage and he rapes me? What about
Well,
that,
lucky
voice
you.
of God?
Lucky you.
What do you think, voice of God? Huh?
Oh hell yeah!
That's good. That's pretty good.
Wow! Suddenly you became black. That's awesome.
It was like it was a mixture.
Yeah, it's like Cleveland on the other end from Family Guy.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Oh no!
Yeah. Now he's
I really feel like this guy's doing something to himself without pants on.
We all hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And should I have a condom on this thing while I talk to this guy?
He's okay. He's fine. He's clean. He's a clean guy.
So
Only clean people here.
as he's coming up, I'm like, if he goes, he could rape me in my room, and I won't get away from this guy, Stone Cold.
Yeah.
And then he comes up, and the first thing I noticed.
I love how I nodded like it was Like,
you were
what
like,
am I doing?
He had veins like
In his-
calves,
yeah.
like everywhere, right? Super nice guy and a smart guy, not a dumb guy at all. And he basically said he would go from town to town, and he had 3 different names before he stuck with Stone Cold. He hit on Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he'd go and he'd perform and work out during the day and perform, and then listen to the crowd and see what was working and then eliminate what wasn't. It's exactly what comedians do.
Seedy hotels.
Yeah,
In the
that's
middle.
I'm telling
road
you.
trips.
I'm
like,
telling you.
It's so close.
Because like the first 5 years as a comic, generally, I think 5, you don't have a persona. You're just trying to get comfortable on stage, write funny jokes. Then you start going, I really want to talk about this. It was so crazy parallel. A host of the Mythbusters, really cool guys. Everybody does what they do for a reason. So that guy with the beret, not Adam Savage, the other guy with the big mustache.
I don't know his name, but I know exactly what you're talking
great
about.
Great guy. Totally makes sense why he can make anything with his hands. At 16, he got in a big fight with his parents and moved out of the house and lived in a survival camp for 1.5 years and learned how to survive off the land.
It's ridiculous.
And so that informs why that guy does what he does, right? Then we started talking about, is there a God? Because they're scientists and they go to these skeptic conventions. They don't believe in a God. Like they don't believe. Adam Savage said, "Yeah, explain to me a God that just was able to come up with a cylindrical tube that's aluminum that goes 700 miles an hour and people sit in an airplane. That's science. Like so the ones that go in a direction you don't expect.
Yeah.
And then I've got Paul McCartney, which was like a mind blow. Because
how's that even come to be? Like, it's like, hey, you got Paul coming in today. He's gonna sit down for an hour, and we're gonna hang.
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't know if you realize this. I'm a very important person.
Why we realize that,
Right, voice of God, right, Cleveland.
Of course you are.
The only important people in this room. But I mean, how do you even get that call? How's that day even? Like, how far in advance did you know?
I was working on the Colbert Report, and he was doing a special show, and he had just finished rehearsal. So I'm going downstairs to go to the studio, and I round the corner, and standing against the wall with a little Colbert T-shirt on, tucked into his pants, his arms folded like this, leaning against the wall, his legs crossed, looking up at the ceiling, chewing gum, is Paul McCartney, all alone in a hallway. Not a handler,
Nobody.
not a parrot on his shoulder, all alone.
Not a one-legged woman.
Not a one-legged woman, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god! And so And that took me aback more than anything else. Like first, it was like a double whammy. It was like Paul McCartney, and he's alone. Like it was like, psh, psh. And I'm like, and my whole world slows down. I'm like, oh my god, it's Paul McCartney. And you've met some famous people, so you're like, I want to talk to them. I don't want to screw up. Should I talk to them? So your brain's going a million miles an hour, right? So as I'm approaching, I'm like, you know what? I'm never gonna meet this guy again. Plus, he's alone in a hallway. He's like a gazelle on the Serengeti Plains, and I'm a lion. I'm gonna pounce. He's asking for it, just being out there.
Yep.
So I go up, I go, look, I just figured I'm going to say hello, move on. I'm a huge fan. Brilliant work that you do. Nice to meet you. Oh, cool, man. What's your name? Paul. Oh, Paul, that's good. I can't do a British accent, so I just raised my voice.
I thought, man, I was like, he's really going for it.
Maybe
here.
Cleveland
He's
can do
going
it.
for it.
And he goes, what do you do? I go, I'm a stand-up. He goes, I love stand-up. I knew Robin Williams and talked about Pryor and this and that. Big fan of stand-up. You tour? Yeah, I tour. It's tough, right? Yeah, 5 minutes, 10 minutes go by. I am talking to Paul McCartney. Now, on the outside, I'm like, hey, I'm talking to Paul McCartney. On the inside, I'm like, I'm talking to Paul McCartney.
Yeah, really.
I was like one of those girls you see in the films in the 60s, right? And people are walking by going, whoa, Jesus, Paul Mecurio knows Paul Mecurio. Like, I don't, right?
Yeah.
Now, while I'm talking to him, I'm waiting for somebody to, like, come over and tase me. Like, like, get away from this guy, right? But nobody's saying anything. So I decide, okay, I want to leave the party early. I don't want to stay till, like, talk for, like, 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Solid time.
Yeah. I'm like, nice to meet you. I go into the bathroom, get on the phone, call my wife. I'm like, she goes, what are you doing? I go, I just talked to Paul McCartney. She goes, where are you? I go, I'm in the bathroom. He goes, are you jerking off? I'm like, no.
Of course.
No, it's Tuesday, not Tuesday. That's tomorrow.
That's not Ringo.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I hang up the phone, and now I'm delusional, and I say to myself, oh, by the way, as I'm talking to him,
Yeah.
I'm getting closer and closer to his face. I become the creepy close talker guy, because he's, like, he's the guy that you've only seen in this box, right, your whole life. Like, after Elvis died, right, the biggest star on the planet, right?
Yeah.
I think you could say, not because I had him. So I'm like closer, like, because he's 72 and he looks amazing. Yeah. And I'm like, I was like this close. Like, if I were like a chimp on the National Geographic Channel, I could have like cleaned ticks off his eyebrows. I was like one of that. So I go, I'm gonna ask him to do my podcast. That's what I tell myself.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I go, and I'm like, this is so delusional, right? So I go in, and I knock on the door, and I go, look, would you do my podcast? He goes, yeah, sure. Just like that. Now, the problem is, I didn't see that coming, because when you're in high school, there's that hot chick you want to ask out. She's way above your pay grade. Yeah. And you're like, I'm going to ask her out, get it out of my system.
Yeah, and fail.
She'll say no, but I'll know that I asked. Yeah. Instead, she says yes, and you don't have a plan.
An answer.
That was me, because then he goes, yeah, sure, how would we do it? And I'm like, I literally went like this.
I don't know.
Exactly. That was the first thing out of my mouth.
Tuesday.
I go, I'll come to London. And he looks at me like, we're in New York together. Why would you come to London?
Oh, God.
And then he goes, is it easy to do? And I actually said to arguably the most influential musician in the last century. Yeah, it's really easy. I don't want to be, and I literally was talking like this fast. I don't want to be a bother. I know you're really busy. You can do it on your phone naked from your toilet. I'm like, what am I saying, right? Like, if this were a first date, it would have been over at the appetizer, right? So I'm like totally flustered, and I don't get easily flustered anymore, but I'm flustered, and I'm like, I got to get out of here. I go, look, I'll go talk to your assistant. He goes, I'll arrange with them. He goes, no. He goes, they're going to muck it up. You and I will do it. I go, what? He goes, yeah, just give me your number. I'll call you.
So you got Paul McCartney's cell phone number. That's what you got.
He handed my number.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I think I got the nicest on the face of the planet, right? So he does the show. Amazing. Now I'm rushing to get to the Daily Show, which tapes 2 blocks away. My phone rings. I don't recognize the number. I'm late.
I gotta hear this.
I let it ring the voicemail.
Yeah.
And this is the message on my phone.
I gotta hear this.
Hey, Paul, it's Paul McCartney here. I'm going to ring you back in 5 minutes to do the podcast thing. I've got some time now. Otherwise, I'm going to run out of time. So if you're there in 5 minutes' time, you got me. Okay, bye.
Now, will you sleep with me?
Yes. That's the coolest thing.
It was insane. So then I'm retrieving this on the streets of New York City. You live in a big city. Actually, there's homeless people everywhere, unfortunately. So if you saw me from afar, you would think I was one of these crazy homeless people who was like talking to voices, because all you saw me do was I listened to it, and then I put the phone down and I start screaming, shit, fuck, Paul McCartney, screen Paul, never get him, screen call, never get him back. Like, just a non sequitur.
It's forever gone.
So I call back. I call the studio here in LA. I go, look, I need a line. I got Paul McCartney. They go, well, we have somebody in the studio. And then I turned into this guy. Did you not hear me? I have Paul McCartney. I said, unless you have Jesus Christ or John Lennon, you get that person out of the studio. So I had to call him and stall him, because I stalled him for like 25 minutes with 3 phone calls. And then I got him on the phone, and he's like, hold on, he's in the bathroom. And now I'm like picturing Paul McCartney taking a shit in the bathroom. It's like probably goes down backwards. It spells out, I killed Paul or something. Paul is dead. And then the first question I asked him was, you're a Beatle, why would you fuck a chick with one leg?
It's the logical question.
Easy
to ask.
access is what I thought.
No lyrics questions, no Lennon questions, just, why are you sleeping with,
No, I actually just was all about making music. I didn't ask him any, I didn't want to do any titillating stuff about like, oh, you really... And one of the first thing I asked him, and people can hear this because we're dropping it tomorrow as an archive. We're doing 2 podcasts a week on the new show.
What days are you?
Monday, every Monday is a fresh one that's never aired. and every Thursday is something from the archives. Because the people at Corolla was like, you got to let new people hear these things. There's all these amazing people. So, and it is, I'm going to tell people straight up, it's a small subscription fee. We don't want to do ads. We're getting a lot of complaints about them. They said it feels like radio, but it does cost something to produce this thing. It's a minimal amount. It's $3.99 a month.
Oh, yeah.
Or you could do like 6 months for $19.99.
If even cheap.
And a year for $35. Like,
Yeah.
you piss away $35 just on a bad dinner.
It's cheap like the Mangria.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah.
And you get 2 podcasts a week, so you get a ton of stuff. So that's going to drop tomorrow. And then we've got Bryan Cranston coming up, Bill Burr. We've got Sugar Ray Leonard coming up. We've got, like I mentioned, Neil deGrasse. So we're going to be rolling all these people out. I'm doing Michael Imperioli tomorrow from Sopranos.
Yeah.
He's coming out. So
Don't get Bill talking about helicopters. He won't shut up about it.
I know. It's like.
I'm flying.
Yeah,
Dude.
thank you, Dan. And so Colin Quinn, David Tell, just really cool
That's
people
awesome.
coming up. So yeah, and people can go to my website, paulmecurio.com, and you have to spell it Mecurio.
How many people put that damn R in there before?
Because of that other guy.
Yeah,
I had
that
to
other
change the
guy.
spelling of my
Hey,
name.
other guy.
Yeah, you ruined it. Here's the problem, other guy. People were going to this guy, Paul Mecurio, Mercurio, which is how I spell my name.
Jerk.
Was in a show called a movie called Strictly Ballroom and Exit to Eden. He was a dancer.
I thought that was you.
And he's got. And so at one point he had these pictures on his website of himself like in dance poses with super tight pants on. You could see his junk. And
Oh, nice.
And then like a white tank top, and he's got water and he's spraying it on.
Did you recreate it?
No,
For your website?
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be, you got to do the same photo for your website.
You know, people were Googling me and going, and then getting him and getting that picture, and they're going, "Are you doing gay porn now? What are you doing?" Right? And
It's the goal.
And you would look good in the thing with the T. You got the.
Oh,
you got
thanks.
the thing.
Hey, if you need someone like a cover
Why
model.
don't we do this? Will be the close.
Yeah.
You'll take your shirt off slowly, and I'll be spraying water on you.
Sure.
Or Diet Coke.
Sure.
If you're
Well, that's
watching
what I
your
had
weight.
planned anyway. So that's fine. We
You
can do it.
said you had a surprise.
Yeah.
So it's Paul Mecurio with one R, Mecurio.com, and there's a podcast page, and you can get everything.
Yeah, it's
so,
great.
So it was just insane. Leno, he's just a pure stand-up.
Yeah. Oh, God, that guy, I mean, he's out here. I
He's
mean,
an animal.
He's down at the Comedy and Magic Club down there in Hermosa all the time.
And he talked about coming to L.A. from New York, newbie, like still green, living in his car.
Yeah.
He didn't want to have too many expenses because he just didn't want to have to go take a job. He wanted to just focus on being a great stand-up. And
Not
he
to
said
mention
at
his
the
great movies in the 80s with Pat Morita.
Oh my God, that's so great, right? That was the one. Like,
the buddy cop movie.
then he would go up at the comedy store, famous comedy store, and he said Richard Pryor would go up. This was in the day; everybody was in their prime, and he said nobody wanted to follow Richard Pryor because he would kill, and he said, but I wanted to follow him because I knew I wouldn't be able to follow him, but I knew that if even a couple of my jokes worked after Richard Pryor, I knew they were great jokes.
Yeah.
And I wanted to challenge myself. And he's just a purist. And he's just so. You asked about like everybody has pleasantly surprised me, which is why I love doing the show. And we just shot 2 episodes of a talk show based on that, not with headphones, but like a real late night talk show with an audience that we're taking out. I did one with Gilbert Godfrey and one with Bobcat
Gilbert.
Goldthwait. Yeah, he's insane.
Love it.
Yeah. So it's been the podcast just kind of grew out of that sort of natural curiosity, and I know you have the same.
Yeah.
And and just liking to talk, the gift to gab from when growing up in my mother's store and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
It's what people want to listen to. I mean, your kind of show is what people. They want to hear people have real conversations. Like, I mean, I will watch the late night shows, but those, those celebrities are in and out. It's 10 minutes max, and they're promoting their stuff. But if you want to dive deeper into some of these stories,
and it's
your
not
podcast
the host,
is perfect.
The hosts of those shows,
they're great.
Look, I worked on the Daily Show. I work on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. It's not their fault.
No.
They're working within the parameters that have been given to them. Like we got to sell soap every 7 minutes. These people got to move, right? So like, they're doing the best that they can. Yeah. The beauty is now there's digital and everything else, so guys like us can do long form stuff and really like peel back the onion on this stuff. Yeah. And then I also like to do on my podcast. There's two goals: either have people on who are named people, but people think they know something about them, but they don't, right? Because of the very thing we're talking about, or somebody that you'll never know in terms of name value, but like you should know what they do and how they do it. Like I had my acting coach on because I just wanted somebody who really knows about acting as opposed to a critic who never really acted or never taught acting to talk about acting for an hour. And I got an amazing response from people going, I found that so interesting. I'm not an actor. I don't aspire to be an actor, but now I understand what good acting is. And nobody knows the guy Bob Krakauer's name, brilliant acting coach and director. And so that's kind of what I'm doing with the show. So every week people will get a nice variety, you know, from actors to wrestlers to scientists to authors. Like I really want it to be like a cool thing, like that people go, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that, or that's.
Hey, if it's anything like your other show that you had on there,
it's basically
gonna do
we
well.
just changed the name. It's the same show. Yeah.
It's gonna do great. I mean, I was just listening to you guys. The last one you released, it was like, you know, like a mini best of. You know, you had. Carney Wilson, and she was like playing her farts on her phone and all this ridiculous stuff. And then you had Corolla on there, and it was great. Like it's, and I'm glad you guys are bringing back some of your kind of classic interviews.
Yeah, and I
to
just
the new
interviewed Adam again for a fresh one, and the first one was more about him and his childhood and what sort of informed him, and then it just like now it's just, you know, like Carney Wilson has a great story about her father's Brian Wilson, the founder, one of the main voices of the Beach Boys, and she comes home and he was, you know, doing a lot of drugs and stuff. And she comes home and she goes into the living room, and there's a tent in the living room. It's a sunken living room. And I don't know if do you know this story, but
I don't know this one.
Beach sand. He brought in like a giant dump truck of beach sand, had it guys shovel it into his living room, put a tent over it like a big beach umbrella, put his great baby grand piano on top of the sand because it was an inspiration for him to be able to write as though he were on the beach. And his mom and his wife comes home, and now she's like, I don't know, 16-year-old kid. She's like, oh, it's just that. And the wife comes home and goes, the weekend. I want this out by the weekend. Like she didn't even say. What
I give you a couple days.
Yeah, and he just did his thing. Another time, she
bringing home some paychecks.
It's a great listen. Like people should got to listen to him. Another one. She comes home, and in the pool, they're blaring music. Is her father in their clothes? Her father and Keith Moon.
I heard that one.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's nuts. I mean, what a different child. Like, oh yeah, you came home from high school and it's like Keith Moon's is hanging out in your hot tub or pool. What?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's great. I love the show, and I'm going to move on and transition to two chairs and a microphone. Was the title your idea?
Yeah, I wanted something different, and then I was playing with stuff, and I was riffing with a friend, and then I was.
What was the worst one that you came up with that you were like, this is gold, and then everyone just hated it? Like you thought you had it. You had to have one that you really liked, and then it got shot down.
Oh, I think it was walking the talk. Walking the talk.
You're like, this is it.
This is like walking the talk. And like, what are you? Come on! It's like instead of talk the talk and walk the walk, it's walking the talk, and it's just talk. And they're like, you're an idiot. Shut up. You're not doing that. Like, they talked me out of it. My wife talked me out of it.
I always love hearing comedians, like, horror stories, and maybe we'll jump into it. But just like, you know, the worst this or the worst heckler or just a bad night.
I got a story for you,
Well, what do you got? Like, that's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Like, you've been doing it now for 20 plus years.
Yeah,
like,
not that long, but I've been doing it.
We're close, right?
Yeah, like 15. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So, what's something that you got? I mean, everyone has a heckler story, or you know.
I'm on Wall Street and I'm doing M&A deals, big M&A deals. And I made some short films. One of them got into the Aspen Festival, and I went out there and I lied and said I had to go home. And I went to the Aspen Festival, and then they took us to they took us in a van into the hills.
Which sounds safe.
Right. And then they put us on a horse-drawn sleigh. And now I'm thinking I'm going to get raped in the hills. This
is the second time. This comes up frequently.
Well, look at these lips and look at my ass.
That's true.
Who wouldn't?
That's the first thing I noticed.
I'm prison bee.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. We go through this clearing, and it's this massive mansion. It's Peter Gruber's mansion, and you walk in. Big Hollywood producers produce all the major films with all the major stars: Barbra Streisand, Paul Newman, Robert Redford, blah blah blah. And there's a brook running inside the house. Not a man-made brook, a natural. He built his house over a fucking brook.
Wow.
That's when you know you have money. And they had a luncheon for the young filmmakers, short filmmakers, including myself. And you're around the corner, there's like Spike Lee, the Hudlin brothers, Albert Brooks, all sitting at a table.
We're talking like mid-90s here, right?
This is like, mid to late 90s. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa. Now, I just made these films because I wanted to make them, and I had no plans to leave my job. I was doing these huge merger deals. I go back, I start writing jokes. I get invited to I'm working all night. This friend of mine is one of the other associates like, why don't you come? We have a client that's doing a big show. Why don't you come a private show. Jay Leno's the entertainer. Why don't you come take a break? I'm like, I'm too busy. I come on. And I had been writing a lot of jokes, so I printed out my jokes in like a stack of jokes. And I take them with me. And Leno performs, and then I go up to him afterwards sheepishly. I'm like, hey, I don't know any jokes, but I got jokes, and I'm not going to do anything with them. You can have them. He's like, okay. And he really does talk like they're letting helium out of a balloon very slowly. Yeah. It's like when you talk to him, it's like you're going to want to go, breathe, or your head's going to explode, right? And then he goes, hey, and then he goes, come back here. I go, what? He goes, you might want to put your name and your phone number on here so I know how to reach you. I was so scared, right? Next day he calls me and he hires me to start sending jokes in for the Tonight Show monologue.
And then when was this? This is like 97 or
around
and
there.
So you're still working. You're still working on Wall Street.
Yeah. So like I'm doing my thing. And so now he goes, look, don't leave your job. He goes, what do you do for a living, by the way? I go, I'm a lawyer. He goes, I knew it. I go, why? He goes, because you write like a lawyer. You're too wordy. He goes, your setups are way too long. Just get to the joke. You don't need to tell me when to make a funny face. I was giving him like stage direction. And then he said, I'll pay $50 a joke if I use it. And then he calls me a week later, himself again, and he says, I'm going to do one of your jokes on the Tonight Show tonight.
Nice.
And I did it. He did it. And it blew my head off my shoulders. So now I become obsessed with writing jokes.
Yeah.
To the point where I'm taking 2 notebooks to meetings, a deal notebook and a joke notebook. And I'm not taking any deal notes. I'm just writing jokes and observations. That's all I care about, right? So I'm really bitten by this bug. And Leno's like, go try the jokes out before you send them to me. And I'm like, how do I do that? He goes, well, there are like open mic nights around the city, bar rooms. No. So now I go and I do that. And then I get bitten by this bug. And I start to live a secret double life. Because when it was a mind blow that he did my joke. Then when I did the joke and I got the laugh, it was like a drug right into my thing. So I started living a secret double life, which is true. I would do these deals, and then when we had a dinner break, all the other associates would go. And you're working all night. I was doing a hostile tender office, like so you're literally working like 100 hours a week. Jeez. Like you're just there, you're just living.
Yeah. So how do you squeeze in comedy then?
You don't. It was insanity. I was having a nervous breakdown once I got into it. And they would all go to dinner, and I would get in a town car, and it would take me downtown, and I would go to open mic nights and wait to do stage time. And I take off my jacket, my suit tie, my cufflinks, and my suspenders, and I pull my shirt out and mess up. I try to look downtown because these were bad places. One of them was called Downtown Beirut 2.
Sounds great.
2.
And
like I don't know if they were franchising these shitholes or Israeli fighters.
Well, Downtown Beirut 1's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, like, yeah. Well, it's like, it's like the beginning of Starbucks. You have that one, and then it's and literally, it was a dysfunctional Cheers. A pimp worked out of there. His hooker worked out of there. They dealt drugs out of there.
That's great. These stories.
This is totally true. None of this is elaborate. Yeah. I'm not elaborating in any way. There was a sign on the men's room door that said the toilet seat is only to be used to go to the bathroom, not to cut coke. Thank you, the management. It actually said thank you, the management on it, right? So I would go and I'd pick a number out of a hat. And there were poets, folk singers, musicians. And I pick a number, and I'm sitting at the bar one night, and I'm having a beer, and the guy next to me having a beer. This guy's like 6'5", bald, shaved head with a cobra tattooed on the back of his head that goes down his neck, a one-piece leather like unitard, and studs in his face, and tattoos everywhere. And he's like pissed and like, I'm like doing literally like ranting. I'm like, and I'm here in my like little Brooks Brothers suit, 150 pounds soaking wet. I don't know what's going on. There's a folk singer on the stage. Yeah, it's my friend just playing badly. Guy gets up with the tattoo. Goes over to the pool table. There's a scuffle at the pool table. He runs out. A guy at the pool table grabs his neck and he goes, he cut me, man! He cut me! And it was a drug deal gone bad, and they knew each other. And he sliced him this way with a box cutter. Now, it didn't hit the jugular, but it was still...
You saw it, too.
Well, I saw this.
Yeah.
I saw like this, and then I saw him run, and I saw that guy do that, and then I started to see blood come down his hand, right?
Oh, shit.
So, but he's really drunk, and his girlfriend's with him, and he's like, I'm going to get him! I know where he lives! And his girl was like, oh my God, look at my boy! I'm going to get that son of a bitch! Oh my God! The answer, my friend. The guy just keeps playing. He is not getting off stage, because he's been waiting like 2 months to do this stage time, right? So I think the show's over. I'm literally like turning to go to the door, and I hear the MC go, all right, you guys ready for some comedy?
Oh, no.
Now, I don't know, because I'm only doing this like a month or two, that I don't have to go up, right?
Yeah.
It's not like it's the improv.
Yeah, it's like karaoke at that point. Right.
So I go on stage, and I go, nice to be here at Downtown Beirut 2. I always wanted to follow a slashing, which I thought was a pretty good line. But the guy who got his neck slashed heard me go, hey, you making fun of me? Because I don't need to take any shit from you, you little son of a bitch. And he takes all these bloody napkins, and he wads them up, and he throws them at me. And they stick to my shirt, and then they fall off. And I have a blood stain on my shirt, right by my ribs.
Still have the shirt?
I still
Save it. It's
I
like
should've said
the first dollar
frame
bill,
it.
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Frame it with a little.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, now a normal person's like, I'm just gonna get off stage. I'm like, screw this guy. I'm fucking stay. You can kiss my ass.
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish. I got 2 minutes left. Nobody's paying attention. He's screaming. The girlfriend's crying. The cops are there with the walkie-talkies on. Rah, rah, rah. And then he turns back to me and he goes, hey, he goes, what are you doing anyway? I go, I'm trying to tell jokes. He goes, oh yeah. He goes, I like jokes. He goes, on a second. Turns back to the bar. He goes, hey, everybody, shut the fuck up. This guy's trying to tell jokes. And the whole place shuts up.
Oh.
And I had the best 2 minutes because you have a crazy screaming bleeding man.
Yeah.
Like every time he would yell, a little bit of blood would like come trickle down. I get back in the car. The car would wait. Like the car would drop me off like a block away in the shadows.
Yeah.
I didn't want anybody to see the car. I get dressed back up, dress up again, go back to the firm. I was supposed to be going like an hour and a half. I was going like 3 hours. They couldn't find me. I walk into a big conference room with these lawyers, bankers, all these high-powered people. The senior partner of my firm is like apoplectic. He's screaming at me like, oh, and I turned into like a 12-year-old thinking I was going to, like, nobody's going to notice. I took a file full and I was like holding it over here thinking nobody's going to see this grapefruit-sized blood stain. And he goes, where have you been? What have you been doing? Why do you have a blood stain on your shirt? And now I'm like dead, right? Because now the worlds are colliding.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to keep them separate. I can't let these people on Wall Street know I'm doing this. They would make me stop.
Yeah.
And I can't let these comics know I'm a Wall Street guy. They would either roll me for money or whatever. So I'm dead. And I have just a long pregnant pause. And then one of the other lawyers goes, what kind of shirt is that anyway? I go, it's a Brooks Brothers shirt. Why? He goes, oh, I know how to get blood out of a Brooks Brothers shirt.
Get out of here.
He goes, club soda and lemon juice. And I'm like, all right. And then another guy goes, no, Armani. When you get blood, like for day you, I'm like, what are you guys doing? A remake of American Psycho? What
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking the same thing.
And
Paul
then
Allen.
Right. And then later in the night, you talk about hecklers. In that club, all that was hecklers. Like I talk to the audience a lot now. I like talking to the audience for a number of reasons. But one of them is that growing up in these clubs, these dive bars, they weren't listening. They were drunk. They were this. They were that. So I would get their attention by talking to them. And then once I started talking to them, I'd slip a joke in. And then they listen for a little bit, and then they go away and start talking. So, I got good at sort of dealing with hecklers. So later that night, I'm completely stressed out, and we're back in that room, and a lawyer on the other side of the deal is just going at me. I drafted the first draft of the document, and he goes, this is ridiculous. He goes, I could have drafted a better document in my sleep, and I think I thought I was still like at the club, and I just came back, and I went, yeah, well, I could have been your father, but the dog beat me over the fence. In front of like 15, and nobody on Wall Street really laughs. They all just go,
rabble.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And nobody knew how to deal with it. And I'm like, and it was like the beginning of the end for me. And then.
Yeah. So how do you get out of it? Like, how do you eventually just get out of that life?
Well, I go home. My father dies. This is when now I'm lost. Like I'm doing this for like a year and a half. I'm like living this.
And
double
is
life.
Lino still paying you for jokes at this point?
Yeah, I'd send stuff
occasionally.
in,
Okay.
but I was more focused now on my own thing.
Okay.
Right? So whenever I can, which isn't a lot of time, but I'm having a nervous breakdown because I'm trying to keep it. I'm hiding it from my girlfriend, who's now my wife. When I finally told her what I was doing, she goes, well, thank God. I go, why? She goes, I thought you were cheating on me because you were supposed to be working all night, but you were at bars, you had bloodstain, you had women's phone numbers, which were just other women with comedy rooms. Like, so she had a whole other story in her head, right? So I'm lost. I'm completely lost. To get serious for a minute, I was always a kid that kind of knew what he wanted to do. Now I'm like lost. Do I stay and stick with the American dream of security and all of that and work till I'm 60 and move to Florida and have the white picket fence and the 2.2 kids? Or do I pursue what I'm passionate about? I didn't hate the law and Wall Street and investment banking. It just when I created something and someone reacted to it, it was mine. When you're a banker or a lawyer, you're always whispering in the ear of someone whose deal it is. You're always one step removed, and I was lost. I didn't know what to do, and I was a pussy, and I couldn't pull the trigger, and I was afraid, and how I'm going to unravel my life. I have a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment that I own on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I have a Saab. I have watches, and my father dies. Circle back to that. I go home unexpectedly, heart attack. I go home to Rhode Island. We're at the funeral home where cousin Bobby comes with the powder on his feet, and my mother turns to me and goes, I think I want to retire, and you take over the furniture store and maybe run it with your brother Arthur. And I'm like, thank God. I don't have to make this decision because I didn't want to make it. I wanted somebody else to make it for me. God made it for me, or whoever. My father dies. I have to do this. I can't do comedy or law. Good.
Yeah.
I'll run the business. We'll move back to Rhode Island. My wife and I went to high school together. We're both from there. We'll have a nice life. It won't be like whatever, but like whatever. My mother was full of shit. She was never going to retire. She wanted me to be my father. My mother's very flighty, very creative, and is the center of the family. She's the matriarch. It's a matriarchal family in that sense. My father would have to go bail her out of jams, like she'd run out of gas in the middle of the night. So, and I became my father. My mother was a hearing aid. She grew up in the Depression, so she goes through people's garbage looking for good garbage, like stuff that's broken. So she had a hearing aid, like she found the garbage, and it whistles all the time.
Yeah.
And she can't hear. And we always joke it's like talking to a tea kettle in a house dress. Like it's sort of like she can't hear and she's forgetful. So routinely she would lock customers in the store in the middle of the day. She's like, "Oh, I gotta go to the bank before they close." I go there one day. There's a woman, 60. I go, "Man, what happened?" She goes, "Well, I was looking around browsing. I turned to ask her another question. I couldn't get out."
Gone.
I go, "Well, how long have you been?" She goes, "Oh, about 3 hours." I said, "What have you been doing?" She goes, "Well, I browsed a lot."
I guess.
She was really funny.
Yeah.
And she goes, "I got a little tired. I took a nap on that sofa." She goes, "Your name Paul?" I go, "Yeah." I go, "Why?" She goes, "The phone rang. I hope you don't mind. I took messages." She took messages from me.
Yeah, she
right?
worked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I'm yelling at my mother the next day. I'm like, "Ma, you can't do." She goes, "I don't know what you're yelling at me about." She slept on that sofa. She liked it so much she's going to buy it. She goes, "I made a sale. I wasn't even in the store." So now I am going. So the moment where I knew it wasn't going to work was it's midnight and I'm driving her home and it's garbage night on Sunday in Rhode Island, so people put their trash cans out, and she makes me stop because she sees something in a trash can she thinks is good that she wants to get, and I'm like, "I'm not doing this." She goes, "Yes, you are." Now we get a big argument. She stops, her hearing aid's going, she's in a house dress, curlers, and she's standing in the middle of the street at midnight in Providence, Rhode Island, with a clock, like a broken clock in her hand. She goes, "I can't believe these people threw this clock out. They're crazy." I'm like, "They're crazy. I was on Wall Street doing M&A deals. I'm now lookout in some bad Italian-American version of Antiques Roadshow. What the fuck am I doing here?" So I left, and I went back to the firm, and I worked for a while, and then I eventually was like, I got to do this full time. And I sold my apartment, and I sold everything except my car, and I moved to a rooming house outside the city. And it was like one of those divey rooming houses you see in like those Philip Marlowe film noir movies.
Yeah.
There's a bare light bulb. I had a little room and a hot pot on the floor, and I shared a bathroom and a kitchen with 2 ex-cons, 2 recovering addicts, and a 300-pound phone sex operator who sold Herbalife diet products door to door. She lived right above me, and I could hear all their calls.
So when you had this life before this, and so why? I mean, because you still had. I mean, obviously you made money before all this happened. So why?
Oh, I wasn't. There's a misnomer.
So there's a potential to. You're on your way.
I wasn't making the big money. First of all, I had student loans up the ass.
Oh yeah.
I bought my apartment. I was associate, like moving up, but like
So once the job went away, it was like, okay,
Well, I was making I was making better money than somebody who didn't go to law school.
Sure.
But I wasn't making crazy town money yet. Also, at the time, law firms, now they do because they were losing people to investment banks, weren't giving bonuses. But I was still making pretty good money.
Yeah.
Like I was still making 6 figures, but it wasn't like $900,000.
Yeah.
And you're living in Manhattan, and everything's twice the price, and my mortgage and everything else. So I had some money squirreled away.
Yeah.
And I could have stayed in that apartment, but they wouldn't let me sublease it past a year. And Leno said something that always stuck on my mind. He goes, "Don't get caught up with bills and having to do stuff for money, because then you're not going to have time to do stand-up because you're going to be too busy working to pay the bill, and then stand-up's going to be a side thing. You just need to like commit yourself, mind, body, and soul." So I went from a $2,000 a month nut to $320 a month. And my wife took a job up in Boston, and so
You were married at that point?
well, we were about to be married,
Yeah,
and
pretty much
I said, "Yeah, go to Boston because it's a good comedy town." So I
Yeah,
could spend
hell
3
yeah.
days at her apartment up there and 4. So I had some money, but I couldn't burn through. I would have burned through it in less than a year.
Yeah.
Then I would have been like, "What am I going to do?" My mother wasn't going to give me any money. I was going to have to go take a job, and it takes a while to make money, but it sucked in the beginning. I thought I made the biggest mistake of my life.
Well, so you looks like you got into it pretty quickly, because then you get the gig on the original Daily Show, right? With Craig Kilborn, right?
Yeah.
So was that your talk about? I want to hear about your first kind of big break in the business. Like you're trying stand up, you're writing jokes.
Well,
and
it's
everything.
funny. The big break came when I was still a mess about my decision.
Okay.
Because I was so miserable in this. 6 months in, I was like, "This is the biggest mistake of my life." I was getting stiff. I did a show. We asked about a hell gig. Here's another one. New Haven, Connecticut, a place called Joker's Wild. It's reopened and it's better now. It was owned by this fucking asshole cokehead named John. If I could remember his last name, I would say it, okay? He was an asshole.
Yeah.
So I go there, and I'm an opening act for Elaine Boozler. I don't know if you remember her, right? And it's February, and cold as shit. And I walk in, and it's cold, and he goes, hey, you wanna do a shot? I'm like, no, I'm looking for John there. And he goes, yeah, that's me. You wanna do a shot? No. You wanna do some blow? I'm like, no. He goes, what are you, a pussy? I'm like, what? What are we in high school? This is the owner.
Yeah.
I go in the showroom. Everybody's in their jackets. The guy wasn't paying his heating bill, and we did 4 shows in February in Connecticut in like 35-degree weather with our coats on.
Yeah. Guys making bank.
$250 for the whole weekend. $50 a show I was getting paid. I come off stage. He did this trick. They've done. Oh, the bouncer's like, I don't know. The owner left. He didn't leave you a check, and he stiffed me on my money. This is a guy that would not have
So
been
many
allowed...
shady guys like that, though.
This is a guy that would not have been allowed to Xerox documents in my law firm. And now he had control over me. So that was the issue, right? So now I'm pursuing my dream. And so there's this misnomer in life, like, the guy just pursued his dream and he got it. There were a lot of doubts. I thought I made a huge mistake. Long story short, I go back to Wall Street. I take a job at another bank. And I undo my life as a comedian. And I go back for a second tour of duty and swear off comedy, move my girlfriend back, get a new 2-bedroom apartment, new TV, new suits, back at it, and 2 months into that, I'm back in the comedy clubs again like an alcoholic looking for a drink. And that's when I realized it picked me and I didn't pick it, right? But it was tumultuous, like it was scary. And so, through all of that, I'm like trying to figure out. So the big break came when I got to do my first, they have those showcase comedy shows, like it was Evening at the Improv, and it's Comedy Central Premium Blend, those little you do for. And I got to shoot one of those, and this was when I was in the throes of trying to decide if I should go back to Wall Street a second time. I literally shot it, and then I had 2 weeks to decide if I wanted to take the job. And I couldn't decide if I wanted it, and I was scared. And then I took the job, and I called my girlfriend up in Boston. And I was bawling on the phone. Like, I took this job. She goes, are you happy? Is that why you're crying? I go, no, I just took a really intense, high-powered, intense, crazy job, and I really know that I shouldn't go there. But I had to. And then fast forward 4 months, and I'm in Arizona. We're selling an HMO, and the president of the HMO comes in, and he goes, did I see you on TV last night? I'm like, no. He goes, yeah, were you like telling funny stories, like your jokes or something? I go, no. And I really didn't know initially what he was talking about. Then it hit me. They aired the show. They never gave me an air date. Yeah. And I just thought I was
like
dead.
Locally?
No, it was a national
show. Okay.
And he goes, it was great.
Oh, wow.
He goes, hey, everybody, my investment banker is a comedian. Isn't that great? Let's go into town tonight. There's a comedy club. Well, what? And I found out later it humanized me to him, and that's why he liked it. I wasn't just a money-grubbing Wall Street. Like, I was an actual person who had interests and stuff. And I think I needed that permission from that world to go. And then I left after that. And then I was doing stand-up a lot. So it was that show that I got that aired. Then the other big break was sort of just breaking into the big clubs. And then I got sort of noticed by some of the people who were putting the Daily Show together, and I got asked to do a writing submission. And they got on the Daily Show, and that was really cool because it was new. And we would do stuff, and then they would get mad at us at the network. It was like when your dad would get mad at you. It was like, we did this thing, Monica Lewinsky, that whole thing, right? And so she was rehabilitating her career by, I don't know if you remember, but she did a big Vanity Fair article and spread, and she has this little like country girl thing with a little and she was on a like, and we were so incensed, my writing partner and I, like that the society was like letting her do this, right? It was like this is bullshit, man, So we wrote this joke. She's also getting endorsement deals from products, major products, including from the milk industry, and we had them put a milk shot on her face, essentially a cum shot on her face that said "got milk" at the bottom, and we held it back from the script because we knew of standards and practice, so that they would kill it. And then it aired, and apparently the story goes, the president of the network, like at 10 after 11, like sat up bolt right in bed. Like, who authorized that picture? Are you guys out of your minds? And by the way, you have a great job when part of your job is to stand over somebody in graphics and go, no, it needs to look more like cum. Yeah. Like it's got to look
That's
translucent.
the American dream.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's the job you want.
Exactly. Yeah. And then he yelled at us like your dad would yell at you, like he was proud of you, smiling, but But he wanted us to do that. He wanted us to push the envelope
Yeah.
and then pull us back because it was a new animal. There was no real show like it. And this guy, Doug Herzog, brilliant guy, he's still running.
Yeah.
And he was the one that didn't put a limit order on the show because he said, we don't know what this is. So we're going to just let you guys go.
That's the best.
Yeah, it was great.
Freedom.
We're talking about Disney for a second, right? There was a guy, it was a great correspondent, Brian Unger, who he and A. Whitney Brown really sort of originated the field pieces, which were basically a spoof on 60-minute pieces. So he did a story on the Disneyfication of Times Square, which was like they cleaned out all the smut shops, they brought in all this touristy stuff. And he goes, but is it really? Is it really? He would tell is it really any different? I'm here at the Disney store. Let's look at some products. And then he just start grabbing like Disney, like classic, like dolls that girls play with. And he goes, dildo, dildo, dildo. And he did it like 15 times.
Yeah.
And the same guy, Doug, the president, saw that. And he goes, you can't say dildo 15 times in a field piece. And we're all laughing like, where's that rule come from? I made up the rule. And then we're like, all right, well then how many times do you say dildo in a field piece? 6. You could say it 6 times.
I love it because he doesn't know the rules. And if that's the most in trouble you're going to get the whole time, you guys are going to keep pushing the envelope.
Yeah, it was a really special time.
Oh, man.
To be in the ground floor of that, and then Jon Stewart came in and made it even so much better.
We're going to need a part 2 because they're booting me out of the studio right now. Man. Look at that. They gave me that's what I get right there.
Hey, by the way, I'm going to be at the Denver Improv.
Yeah, I brought your dates down. Everyone check it out. Paul Mecurio at the Denver Improv, December 3rd through the 6th. You're flying there tomorrow.
Thursday through Sunday. Great club, Denver Improv. Go to denver.improv.com for tickets and 2 chairs and a microphone. Go to paulmecurio.com.
At Paul Mecurio on Twitter.
Yeah, and Facebook and all that good stuff. Awesome, man.
Hey, if you're back in LA, I'd love to do a part 2 of this. I would love to sit down.
Awesome.
This flew
it's like
by.
We're old friends we just
Pleasure.
met. Hey, Cleveland, I'll see you later.
All right, everyone.
Bye.
See you later. Oh, that was awesome.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.